if you don't take the time to plan and set expectations for yourself, you're going to consistently live in a space of discontent and worry and anxiety. And if you just make a decision and say, hey, this is where I want to be, and you're clear on it, then all the other decisions line up, right? If you commit and say, hey, this is a season where I'm going to be tight with money, all other decisions feel comfortable with it because you know the goal is to be tighter with money. And if you're in a season where it's abundance and you say, hey, speed over frugality, then it's fine to spend money because you know that there's just burn, right? You're just lighting stuff on fire for the sake of speed. But it's about setting the expectations and being clear on them so that your decisions can be in line with your path no matter what.
Every great entrepreneur I know always started frugal. I say that like pretty adamantly. It's possible someone could like think of the one exception or got you, but like that's my general experience. Everyone starts out tight and then maybe later they change, but like it's part of it. Fiscal discipline is a very big part of business. I remember early on when I first started the loan company, I was concerned about affording the rent. So I kind of treated it like a law office and I brought in another loan officer and we were not in business together. We had separate businesses, but we just split the rent. So it's kind of like a law office. I think we shared a receptionist or, this kind of thing. At the time I was so frugal, even though I was netting $150K a year. I mean, my budget monthly was like $25K. I like lived super poor, like eating out, like was not happening. And so every time we'd go out, like it'd be like Tuesdays, like you want to grab a bite and it's like, sure. And then we'd go to like a bougie steakhouse and he'd spend $340 and then we'd split the tab and I was like,
I'd crush my soul in those days. I'd be like, oh God, I'd be like sweating about it.
I got to the point where I kind of like let him pick up the check.
Yeah.
Like I stopped like trying to like coddle my ego and I'm like, yeah, you got it, bro. But thought to myself, I was like, and by the way, the guy at the time probably made $600,000-$700,000 a year. I told myself, I was like, I am never going to be that guy. Like, it doesn't matter how rich I get. I'm not going to spend $300 on dinner every single night. Until
your money is on the line, until your well-being is on the line, until your emotions are on the line and tied to it, you can't really internalize it, right? You can intellectually think through the exercise, but you can't really know. And what I didn't really get was that $300 dinner. Two things changed as I moved through life. One was $300 for a dinner relative to my annual income became a negligible amount. And I didn't really get that. In my head at the time, I thought I would never spend $300 routinely for dinner because $300 is $300. It's fucking a lot of money for dinner. But if it's nothing of your income, right? If you're making $100,000 a month or $200,000 a month or $1 million a month or $50 million a month, whatever, right? That number becomes such a small percentage of the overall. And I think that's one thing. And then the other is the value of your time, right? The other is thinking, okay, I could go home and cook and spend 2 hours cooking. Now, if you really enjoy it, that's one thing. But if you don't, and where you get joy is out of something else, then who cares? And I find myself routinely quote unquote overspending for the convenience today that I never would have done when I was 19. I had a rule when I was probably 25, and it became clear to me when I was 25. I would get in these conversations with people that would talk shit about, kind of very similarly, not $300 on a car or on a dinner, but $300,000 on a car. And people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody would ever, that rich asshole would spend $300,000 in a car. And I thought, yeah, but let's say his payment or her payment is $10,000 a month, right? On some car. They're making, $100,000 a month. So they're spending 10% of their monthly. Most people that are making $60,000 a year and making $5,000 a month would get a BMW and have a $600 payment and feel like that was rationalized, justified, right? Well, that's percentage-wise more than the person who's spending on the Ferrari and making, $100,000 a month, right? So the ratio of your income is relevant. And then also the other thing is that the person with the Ferrari has a hell of a lot more in excess every month. So if they wanted to overspend their excess, even if they spent 30% on their car, they'd still have $70,000 a month, right? To do whatever else with. So I didn't really get that. But what I grabbed when I was 25 was percentage of income is relevant. And I made a rule for myself that was, I'm not going to spend more than 5% of my income on a car. And so for many, many, many years, based on that rule, I never bought a car. I had a car that I had the same car for 20 years until probably actually when I moved to Austin. And a few years went by and I was at the point, this is a transitional moment for me where I was at the point where I absolutely shouldn't be concerned with what I was spending on a car payment. And I talked to my financial advisor and he said, Brad, you're at the point where you shouldn't have anything that frustrates you on a routine basis in your life. Just buy a different car. But I still, because I built this rule when I was younger, had the frame of I'm not going to spend more than 5% of my annual on it.
Spending limits and frames around money ebb and flow. I at times, as things have gotten really, really good, I'll let a little more loose and enjoyed life. And also now we're heading into recession and now I'm ebbing the other way. I'm going through all my discretionary spending saying, yeah, I could afford this. Let's say my mortgage business goes down 70%. I'm still making 7 figures a year net. And I also have all these other things going on and a lot of passive income. Like I'm super fine. But today I'm going more back to I'm not spending $300 on a steak and I want to tighten things up and I'm keeping everything really tight and hoarding cash and wanting to be ready for what's to come. And that's just the season that I'm in right now and I'm comfortable with that. And I think it's powerful to have the ability to sway between the two.